Hi everyone, James here from F9 Audio, and welcome to this third video walking you through the content, patches and sounds of the F9 Toolkit for Ableton. This toolkit works with Live 9 and Live 10 Standard or Suite Edition. This third video is going to be covering all of the synths and related instruments. We've got an awful lot to get through because we're going to go from this to this, and this. And some analog lushness like this. The F9 Toolkit for Ableton comes in two editions, Standard and Deluxe. Both contain the full sound library, so that's 269 racks to install into your own library. But the Deluxe edition also comes with 6 fully functioning Ableton projects that built the main audio demos you hear on the product page, as well as 9 separate startup pages that contain a whole list of instruments all set up on your page and ready to go. They are designed for instant inspiration. Okay, so to start this tour of the synths off, we're going to head straight for the Plucks. Now, the first thing that I want to draw your attention to is the preview system. So every time that you can see these racks, the .adg files within Ableton's browser, you'll also see a preview folder underneath it or above it that you can actually twirl down. Now, every single rack within this pack has a corresponding preview file. So if you click on the preview file, come down to the bottom here where it says click on preview, or you can press the right arrow on your computer keyboard. It will play back a short clip demoing that sound. So that means before you add anything into your production, you can hear what the patch is going to sound like. So now let's have a look at some of the individual sounds, and let's start with the synth plugs. That particular sound is from a Prophet VS. We've got far more synthetic ones. Some sampled from classic analog, like this one from a Jupiter 8. Now, as you'll hear, many of them are actually quite dynamic. We've got some classics from some DX and TX. And doesn't the DX sound contemporary at the moment? It's really come back into fashion. We've got some real house classics. As well as some slightly more out there sounds. In total, we've got 24 different synth plucks, and they cover a wide range of material, and you're hearing lots of them on the audio demos and within these videos. Who would have thought a few years ago that the humble marimba was going to be pulled from obscurity from general MIDI and thrown into the nation's psyche? Mallets are massively back, and we've got a good collection of them here. They've all been really carefully sampled and in many occasions resampled using parallel processing technology, something that we pioneer here, so they really bite. And we've actually managed to include a surprising number of variations. Including quite a few patches that are made from layered sounds. Now, one real bonus of this toolkit is that the sounds are designed to work together. So here are a series of the mallet patches and a couple of the plucks just playing a little refrain. But having everything in one place and in easy reach really encourages you to take synthetic stuff like this and mix it with something slightly more organic. This is one of the demos that we knocked up whilst we were putting this video together, and it just shows off some of the patches working with some of the drums. And as with all of the stuff that you're seeing in these videos, everything comes from the toolkit. So let's start looking at the pads, and we're going to start with the analogs because it's everybody's favourites. I don't know a single producer that doesn't love a decent analog pad, and we've got a lot of lushness here. Here's another from a Jupiter 8. All very playable, but with one killer feature. We have sampled the raw waveforms with the filter turned off or fully open in most cases, and then we're applying a lot of the synthesis back actually inside the plugin. Now that means we have full control once again, the same with the basses, and I can show you this here. I've got the simpler open and I can start to increase the attack time on the envelope. I can bring the envelope amount down and turn up the LFO. Ah, there we go, the lost chord. But I'm sure you can see this enormous amount of flexibility. Now, I've even taken one of the pad patches, and bearing in mind these are sampled with no volume envelope, they start straight away, edited it quite a lot, and then thrown an arpeggiator on the front and managed to get this out of it. And we managed to get all of that simply because we've got raw waveform sets from these fat old analog synths. And of course, we've got our in-browser preview system. So let's head over there now and have a look at some of these pads. Now, you've got to admit, that sounds damn good for sampled analog. Okay, moving on to our liquid or our Uber pads, and these are our homage to the liquid styles of bass music that were around in the 90s. Now, these were all carefully stacked and recorded from synths of that era, and they sound lush. Now, please note, you're not hearing chord samples here. These are fully multi-sampled and responding to the notes you input via MIDI. But rather than me go around these all day, I've put a little piece together here that uses some of the analog patches and some of the liquid patches, as well as a few other choice sounds from the toolkit. Rounding out the pads, we've got some from digital sources, including this great general purpose bread and butter pad. It's been really tuned to fit in the gaps that are often needed to hold chord sequences together. We've got a very emotive string patch that's actually been created using some advanced granular techniques. And a glass-like pad. These patches have all been carefully tuned to respond to velocity nicely, so it makes them very playable. Moving on to the leads, and for me a modern lead is anything that creates a hook in a record. That doesn't have to be in the upper and higher registers. So our lead section goes from these kind of sounds to sharper sounds like this. And we've even got Moog style leads. And a whole range of other things. Now, rather than me just don a cape and start doing keyboard solos for you all day, once again we thought it best if we created a couple of demo projects. Here's the first. And what better way to show off some of these leads than a nice slice of French-style funk. Now, you will have to excuse some of the glitching back there. I'm screen capturing at incredibly high resolution so we can zoom in nicely, and sometimes that puts a bit of a strain on things. So now let's hear some of the leads in a more modern setting, and this is one of the pieces we've created for this video. So we've got a lot of sounds that will really fit into contemporary productions, but we're always nodding one head back towards the classic sound. In total, we have 24 lead sounds, and don't forget the inbuilt preview system that will allow you to almost demo these sounds before you drop them onto your arrangement. Next up, we've got the polysynths, and for me, these are a vital part of modern production. Now, we've kept them away from all of the pads and the rest of the synth sounds because we consider them, or I personally consider them, a subgenre all of their own. For me, they're the equivalent, or the synth equivalent, of a piano patch. Now, this is a perfect example. This first patch was sampled from a Jupiter 8 first thing in the morning before the oscillators had had a chance to really settle down with the room temperature. And analogues are well represented within this category. But it's not all just analog. We've got some great patches sourced from the digitals. FM synthesis has a particular bite. And things like the Prophet VS and Waldorf Microwave were particularly good at strings. We've got 16 polysynths within the pack, and between them all they cover an awful lot of sonic territory. Now, one thing I should make clear here is these weren't sampled in the same way as the analog pads. We haven't sampled the raw waveforms, we've sampled them with the filter envelopes and other settings actually applied. But what we lose in a little bit of flexibility, we gain in sonic character. And now for the very last section, the layer polys. Now this is a bit of a new concept that we've been toying with here at F9, and we wanted the first incarnation of this inside this pack. So what we've done is created 3 different types of polyphonic instrument, and there are 5 variations on each. Now, each of the 3 types of polys are designed to work in a specific octave range. So the lows work in the lower registers. The mid-range layer polys are perfect for picking out the main chords. And the high layer polys are designed to add fizz and sparkle on top. So now let's take a chord sequence and do some interesting things with this. Here's the chord sequence just playing back on the mid polys. Here's what I'm doing with the bass poly. And the top. Play it all back together and you get this. But the fun really starts when you start to split the chord sequence up amongst the different polyphonic instruments, bearing in mind each one of them may have a slightly different flavour. So let's just have a listen to the mid polys. This is poly A, poly B, poly C, D and E. And then once you start to break that chord sequence up and divide it up between the different instruments, you can get this. So it makes your chord sequence infinitely more interesting and almost kind of post-complextro, particularly when you start to add some rhythmical elements to the actual chord sections or to the different polys as well. So we've now finally reached the end of this 3-video series walking you through the sounds, patches and content of the F9 Toolkit for Ableton Live 9, 10, Standard or Suite. If you've watched all 3 videos, thank you so much. I really admire your dedication. It's the best thing that we've built for Ableton so far. It's in use here every single day now, and I hope that if you do get it, you love it as much as we did creating it. As always, if you make something that you love with this stuff, please let us know at info@f9-audio.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.